the smaller your starting lineup is, the smaller your league is, the more you should emphasize quarterback and tight end. The larger your league is, the more members you have, the more you should probably prioritize running backs and wide receivers. You're going to see a lot of strategy videos this offseason for fantasy football, and a lot of them are going to be helpful. However, a strategy itself is pointless if it doesn't work for your league, your starting lineup, and your league setting. So today, let's talk about the most important thing you need to know before you can successfully draft in fantasy football this year. And it's simple. Your starting lineup is everything. That's what we're going to talk about, because really, what is the ultimate goal for you in fantasy football this year? Like, genuinely, let me ask you the question. What is your ultimate goal? My ultimate goal is to score as many fantasy points in the starting lineup that I've been given in the fantasy league I'm in. That should be the goal. This is my starting lineup. How do I get the most points per week in that starting lineup that I've been given, right? It shouldn't be just to force any strategy on any single league. So we're going to discuss the best way to draft for every league, for every starting lineup, and there are time codes below if you want to skip to your league. Let's start with the start 7 people out there. Now, if you're in a start 7 league, that means you can start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 single flex spots minus the kicker and defense. This is the standard on ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, and the NFL app. This is a very, very small starting lineup, and it's extremely easy to fill, meaning we're going to have to draft a certain way to maximize this lineup, okay? So in a start 7, what should be the priority for you? Well, for me, it's very simple. I want to absolutely nail the quarterback and tight end position. No, that doesn't mean we draft them first and second round. It means where the ADP lies, the average draft position in your fantasy league, do not let those guys fall. Draft them, the elite ones, at the top. My 1A, 1B priority in that format is quarterback and tight end. Why? Because they contribute to a higher percentage of your roster's total scoring than any other format in fantasy football, okay? In a start 7, the quarterback and tight end spot combined to contribute to 28.6% of your total scoring from your lineup. So having these elite onesies, as we call them, that's quarterback, tight end, because you start 1. These elite onesies on your team in a start 7 is a difference between you being a good team and a championship winning team. Because let's be honest, everyone's going to have a good team in a start 7. It's very easy to fill that starting lineup. So here's how I would draft personally, and I will show you from a 10-team and a 12-team perspective for start 7, and then we'll move on to start 8. But if I was in a start 7, 10-team league, in the first 4 rounds, I want to ensure I draft an RB1, an elite quarterback, and an elite tight end. So here's an example for you from the 4 spot. We took our elite RB1 at Bijan Robinson at the 104. Then we took our tight end, an elite tight end at Travis Kelce in the 3rd round. Then an elite quarterback in Lamar Jackson in the 4th round. And we're still able to fill out the rest of our roster very easily in a 10-man league. This is our starting lineup: Lamar Jackson, Bijan, Alvin Kamara, Puka Nacua, T. Higgins, Travis Kelce. We can swap out David Montgomery for how many names? As many as we need. Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, if Jonathan Brooks becomes a star after his injury and comes back. So it's very easy, but what is making the difference in this league? Those onesie positions, if you're elite, it just raises your weekly ceiling. All right, how about a start 7, but you're in a 12-team league? Well, very similar to what we just discussed, but we're doing that in the first 5 rounds instead of the first 4 rounds, because this is a larger league. So in the first 5 rounds, ensure you draft an RB1 and an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. So in the first 5 rounds, we went Breece Hall as an elite RB1. Then Jalen Hurts in the 3rd, Trey McBride in the 5th to get our elite quarterback and tight end. And look, you know your league best. You know when the quarterbacks and tight ends are going to go off the board. All I'm saying is don't focus specifically on this round, but just know when you expect the quarterbacks and tight ends to go off the board in that format, don't be the last one, okay? Start the run, if you will. And this is the starting lineup that we ended up with: Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, DJ Moore, Jaden Reed, Trey McBride, Raheem Mostert, and we can sub Mostert out for JSN, Brian Thomas, Khalil Shakir. We can sub him out for Blake Corum if Kyron Williams goes down with an injury. All right, moving on to a start 8 format, okay? Start 8, meaning now you have 2 flex spots instead of 1. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots, not including kickers and defense. This is typically the largest starting lineup you're going to find on like the ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, NFL.com type of apps. This is still a smaller lineup, but now you just have to think about one more flex every single week. So in a start 8, the priority is similar, but we just want to do it maybe a round later in the draft, right? Because we still have to start now 4 running backs or 4 wide receivers every single week. So it is something that we can think about. Let's just push that priority of the quarterback and tight end back one round. So in a start 8, think about it, the quarterback and tight end spot still can combine total to 25% of your total scoring lineup each and every week. So those elite onesie positions will make a difference, especially in a 10-man, which is much, much smaller. So if I was in a start 8-10 team league, this is what I would do in the first 5 rounds now. I would ensure I draft an RB1, an elite quarterback, elite tight end. All right, so here's an example from the 8 spot. We get Breece Hall. Okay, maybe Breece doesn't fall to you at the 8 spot. I get it. Change it up. All right. This is just an example for you. You get Breece Hall, then Puka, then Pacheco. And then in the 4th and 5th rounds, a little bit later, we are able to lock up Jalen Hurts and Mark Andrews. Our starting lineup ended up being Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Pacheco, Puka, Tank, Mark Andrews, Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed. And we got so much flexibility on our bench. So what about if we are in a start 8-12 team league? Well, we want to do the same thing, but in the first 6 rounds now. Let's expand that out a little bit longer because it's a larger league. In the first 6 rounds, ensure you get an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. I don't care what you do with your running backs or wide receivers. There's a bunch of different ways you can go. I would say what's the best available player, but make sure you get an elite quarterback and tight end in the first 6 rounds. So for this example, we showed you the 101. We got CMC, London, then we smashed Kelsey in the 3rd round and Lamar Jackson at the 501. And this is the league, the starting lineup we were able to put together. Lamar Jackson, CMC, Alvin Kamara, Drake London, Jaden Reed, Travis Kelsey, Calvin Ridley, JSN, and a great bench with a lot of upside. Okay, moving on to start 9 now. In a start 9 format, okay, you are looking at a starting lineup with 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and now 3 flex spots. This is most commonly found in the Sleeper app, which I can't recommend enough. So in a start 9 league, the priority does start to shift because our lineup now requires us to field more running backs or wide receivers every single week. Now we have to start 5 wide receivers or 5 running backs every single week at a time, right? So my priority now shifts to wide receivers, running backs. We still want an elite tight end, but we're probably going to try and hit on a late round quarterback in a start 9 league. Because remember, in a start 9, running backs and wide receivers can contribute to up to 55.5% of your team's total points per week. That's a huge chunk that we now need to rely on and prioritize. So in these drafts, we're still going to try tight end early, but we're trying to hit quarterback late. So here's how I would do it in a 10-team start 9. In the first 5 rounds, I want 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a single tight end. Okay, so in this example, our 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry. It's a 10-man league, all right? Running backs are going to fall. In a 10-man league, a lot of players are going to fall. It's very easy to draft in a 10-man. Our 3 wide receivers were Puka, Debo, and Devonta Smith, and we locked up Trey McBride, and then we tried to secure Kyler Murray late. So our starting lineup looks like Kyler Murray, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Puka Nacua, Debo Samuel, Trey McBride, Devonta Smith, Raheem Mostert, Deontay Johnson, and you can swap out any of those bench spots. Now, if we were to look at a start 9 in a 12-team league, in the first 6 rounds, I want 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and again, an elite tight end. We're going to try and hit on a quarterback later on. So in this example, we went Jamar Chase, we went Debo, Tank Dell in the first 6 rounds. At running back, we went Derrick Henry and David Montgomery, and we still locked up Trey McBride. And oddly enough, you can tell I'm going to have a lot of Kyler Murray this year, but this is our starting lineup. Kyler Murray, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Jamar Chase, Debo Samuel, Trey McBride, Tank Dell, Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas. We can swap Brian Thomas out with any of those names on the bench. So you can see, guys, hopefully this is starting to make sense, right? The bigger your league, the more players you have to start at your flex spot, the more priority we might put on the running back wide receiver position. Now, last thing I'll talk about is start 10, all right? More commonly seen in sleeper leagues. I'm not going to show a mock for this one because it's very similar thinking to a start 9, only a little bit more extreme. Only Like, think about it this way. Running backs and wide receivers in a start 10 become even more important to your lineup because they can contribute to up to 60% of your weekly scoring because you have 4 flex spots. You can start 6 wide receivers. You can start 6 running backs. You have to every single week, right? So my priority would be wide receivers and running backs big time. Big time. But, you know, similar to start 9, just a further extent. Maybe we do let the tight ends fall in this format and prioritize the wide receivers and try and hit on a late round quarterback like a Brock Purdy or Jaden Daniels and try and secure that with a more reliable name. So to summarize, think about it from this perspective, okay? This is the easiest way to say it. The smaller your starting lineup is, the smaller your league is, the more you should emphasize these positions, quarterback and tight end. The larger your league is, the more members you have, the more you should probably prioritize running backs and wide receivers. Hopefully that is extremely helpful. I appreciate y'all big time for watching. If you guys want to know, maybe you're like, hey, what would you draft? I'm on the board. Like, what would you do? Well, we have a cheat sheet that's available over on the Flock Fantasy website. It has all of my positional rankings, my guys, my fades, my sleepers, my boom bust players. If you want access to that, all you got to do is become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. If you're monthly, you'll have access to it. If you're yearly, you will also get a free team review from us on a live stream. Either way, I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to try to reply to as many questions I can down below because I want this to make sense. I want you guys to really succeed this year. So I appreciate you. Subscribe if you like the content. Like if you like the content. If not, hey, thanks for being here and good luck this year. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.